Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. It is 6:15 in the evening. Okay. This is part 2 of the introduction to the brothers Karamazov. Okay. The juxtapositioning of extremes that one finds in the brothers Karamazov was also a mark of Dostoevsky's life. The 3 years he spent working on the novel, which was completed in 1880, were comparatively the most settled he was to know. In 1871, at the age of 50, he returned to Russia after 4 years of voluntary exile abroad. His young wife, Anna Grigorieva, took over his practical affairs and in 1873 became his publisher, which for the first time brought him some financial stability. In 1876, Dostoevsky and his wife purchased the house they had been renting in the quiet provincial town of Staraya Russa, a setting that transferred itself to the brothers Karamazov. Their domestic life was disrupted by one tragic event, the death of their 3-year-old son, Alexia, in 1878, which also left its deep mark on the novel. But as an author and as a public figure, Dostoevsky was at the highest point of his career. Prominent friends introduced him at court. The Emperor Alexander II asked him to be the spiritual guide of his younger sons. The Grand Dukes Sergei and Pavel, he made the acquaintance of the future Alexander III and presented him with copies of his works. He was a frequent guest at aristocratic salons in Petersburg. The brothers Karamazov, which was appearing serially, was being read and discussed with great excitement. In Moscow on June 8, 1880, he delivered an address on the poet Pushkin, which brought him enormous public acclaim. His funeral 8 months later, in the words of his biographer Macholsky, turned into an historical event. 30,000 people accompanied his coffin. 72 delegations carried wreaths. 15 choirs took part in the procession. Some 3 decades earlier, however, on April 23, 1849, Dostoevsky had been arrested along with other members of a secret utopian society and sentenced to death. The Emperor Nikolai I, father of Alexander II, changed the sentence but ordered that the reprieve be announced only at the last minute. After 8 months in the Petropolovsky fortress, the young writer was taken out to what he thought would be his execution. He described the event in a letter to his brother Mikhail. Today, December 22nd, we were driven to Semenovsky Parade Ground. There, the death sentence was read to us all. We were given the cross to kiss, swords were broken over our heads, and our final toilet was arranged, white shirts. Then 3 of us were set against the posts so as to carry out the execution. We were summoned in threes. Consequently, I was in the second group, and there was not more than a minute left to live. I remembered you, my brother, and all yours. At the last minute, you, You alone were in my mind, and it was only then that I realized how much I love you, my dearest brother. I also succeeded in embracing Pleshkalevsky and Durov, who were beside me, and bade farewell to them. Finally, the retreat was sounded. Those who had been tied to the posts were led back, and they read to us that His Imperial Majesty granted us our lives. Thereupon followed the actual sentence. Brother, I'm not depressed and haven't lost spirit. Life everywhere is life. Life is in ourselves and not in the external. There will be people near me, and to be a human being among human beings, and remain one forever, no matter what misfortunes we befall. Not to become depressed and not to falter. This is what life is. Herein lies its task. I have come to recognize this. This idea has entered into my flesh and blood. Yes, it's true. That head which created lived by the highest life of art, which acknowledged and had come to know the highest demands of the spirit. That head has been cut from my shoulders. Memory remains, and the images I have created still not molded in flesh. They will leave their harsh mark on me, it is true, but my heart is left me, and the same flesh and blood which likewise can love and suffer and desire and remember, and this is, after all, life. Envoy le Soleil. Well, goodbye, brother. Do not grieve for me. Never until now have such rich and healthy stores of spiritual life throbbed in me. Okay. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching.